Honourable Member for Choiseul Saltibus.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I listened to the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, I was reminded of a story I heard many years ago when we were discussing survival of businesses. And I recall it going like this, that there's a sinking ship and two of the passengers are in the water and both have life jackets. The destiny is obvious because the water is extremely cold and most probably they both would perish. However, the difference between one of the individuals in the water is that he decided to swim. He could have stayed in the water as is, allow the icy cold waters to kill, or he could have decided to swim, at least create some heat and also the possibility of getting a tide that could provide him with a closer opportunity for survival. So as I listened to the member, I was drawn to this situation because in St. Lucia, we are really in between a rock and a hard place as to what we do to survive. We have heard time and time again of the country's debt situation. And I heard the members speak about the fundamental difference between borrowing and having a private operator run our business. And again, I reflect and I said to myself, you know, I can never understand politicians. Never. Because at one time when it's convenient, you hear the conversation about giving up strategic assets, and another time it's okay to give up a strategic asset. And the sensitivity is the Uranora International Airport is definitely a strategic asset to St. Lucia. Mr. Speaker, I speak as the parliamentary representative for Choiseul Saltibus in the south of the island. I recognize in the south of the island, we really have no economic activity happening for us, and that the renovation, the new hospital, what it can bring to us in the south. I recognize, Mr. Speaker, that with the new airport coming into the south, the tremendous opportunities that will follow, and that the Honourable Prime Minister spoke to the possibility also of us having a port terminal. Mr. Speaker, for many years we have heard of making the south, you know, the new frontier, making the south the place for new economic activity. But we have not seen it. Time and time again, we have not seen it. I heard the Honourable Minister, the Honourable Member, the Leader of the Opposition, speak to why would we want to go against something that was already established in terms of the agreement that was in place. But, Mr. Speaker, let us look at this thing very carefully. We recognize the previous administration had an arrangement to literally give up our airport to a private entity. Give up our airport for 30 years, Mr. Speaker. 30 years. When, according to their arrangement, it would have cost approximately $220 million. How much? Correct me. $208 million, thank you, to build the airport. Mr. Speaker, giving up our airport, when you do the calculations, Mr. Speaker, the concessionaire would end up in his coffers with about almost 9 times that amount. Almost 9 times that amount that we would be giving up. And that's not all, Mr. Speaker. We would be giving up the right of significant operations on that airport. We would have no control as to who rents a duty-free facility, because we have no control. Our taxi operators may not have the stability that they have. There are several factors, Mr. Speaker, that we have to take into consideration. Mr. Speaker, the honourable member continues to speak about, well, he made reference, Mr. Speaker, as to the Prime Minister misleading the IMF. And I specifically requested the date just to, provide myself with some clarity. And he spoke to June 2018. But the honourable member would know that when you're negotiating a loan of this size, that negotiation starts a long time before you actually get approval. Okay? There's a lot of back and forth, and we negotiate various terms of the loan. And in June 2018, when I am certain the Prime Minister made the revelation to the IMF, the government's intention was that the loan would have been taken by SLASPA, and SLASPA would have been fully responsible based on the income stream to service that debt. However, Mr. Speaker, when you discuss your terms and conditions to ensure that there is a certainty, because the bank wanted a guarantee from the government of St. Lucia, and that's where the guarantee came in, and that's where our debt to income, our debt is affected. But the entire operations of the Unora International Airport continues to be under the purview of SLASPA, Mr. Speaker. So when the honourable member speaks to the increase in our debt, Mr. Speaker, we have to put it into context. We have to put it into context in that, would we give to a foreign entity, well, not a foreign entity, a private entity, the ability to run a strategic asset like the Unora International Airport, collecting the full additional increase on the ticket, and the government of St. Lucia does not get anything? He spoke about the arrangement with regards to a certain portion continuing to be paid to SLASPA. That still exists in the arrangement, Mr. Speaker. That still exists in the arrangement. However, what he failed, Mr. Speaker, to advise this House was, what was the increase? What was the increase that would have been going to that concessionaire versus what we have been charging, or what we are suggesting, which will go towards paying that loan stream, Mr. Speaker. He never made reference to the amount of money that the new entity would be getting, which is significantly higher than what we have proposed or what we have gone into arrangement with, Mr. Speaker. So you see, Mr. Speaker, there's always more to what is being said. I'm a man of very simple words, Mr. Speaker, and when I look at the arrangement, Mr. Speaker, I think it would be a travesty for us to have given up such a significant amount of our revenue, okay, that could have done, apart from just servicing the debt, there's so much more that could have been done with that we're giving up to a foreign entity in its entirety, no control, for 30 years, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I believe the negotiations that we have entered into is the best for the country, Mr. Speaker, because the revenue streams that we will be getting from that, that new tax.
Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, just a point of order. The member is misleading the House. The member is saying that we would have got nothing. That is not true. The agreement that the concession agreement said that we would have got an income of $1 billion. There will be revenue sharing of $1 billion and tax undiscounted of $580 million.
Honorable members for Choiseul, you heard the explanation there. It's not saying that government of St. Lucia would have gotten nothing, but in fact that we would have, meaning the government of St. Lucia, we would have received revenue from the agreement. So take note of this, sir.
Mr. Speaker, but I did make reference to that. I did indicate that there was an amount that would still be going to SLASPER based on the structuring of the ticketing price. But I also did indicate the significant increase from what we have negotiated in terms of the increase in the cost of the ticket. So, Mr. Speaker, this is a motion that I support fully because I recognize the benefits to the people of the south of the island. I recognize that our destiny will be in our hands with us controlling the operations of HIA, and I fully support the route that we have taken to facilitate the renovation and the restructuring of the Uniro International Airport. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.